So next thing is with peripheral vision, we want the rod acetate. Some of you remember the rod acetate? This is just a dark acetate that you can see through, but it absorbs all the light. So it's a dim vision. We call it a dim vision. So what it is it's a real dark grey. Okay, can you see that? It's a dark grey. So you can see through it, but everything looks grey in the world. All right? So when I do this, I usually turn the light off in the treatment room, just so that you don't have the light coming in as well. Okay? Now what you're going to do is you're going to and hold that round with both hands, but keep your eyes open. Obviously you want her to look through. So she's principally using her rods now, isn't she? Yeah, all in agreement, rather than cones, because she can't see colour. So pull. See? Okay, now, what is the solution to this terrible disease you have, the mauve? What is the solution? Keep your eyes open. The solution is P5P, of course. Okay, that's the cause of her problem, is lack of pyridoxal 5-phosphate. Okay, not lack of B6. Okay, lack of pyridoxal 5-phosphate. This is why you have to take it. Okay, now you will need to take that dose, 5 capsules or 10 squirts, for about 2 weeks, and then when you get someone to test you, you'll probably halve. Okay, and gradually you'll go down and down and down the amount you need. But there will be like a maintenance, and you can store pyridoxal 5-phosphate for 2 weeks. Okay, in the liver. Great. And I've done this always with patients. Oh, you don't need that anymore. We move on to the next thing. And then 2 weeks later, they ring out and say, Chris, yes, all my symptoms have come back. You know, I'm as bad as I ever was. And you can bring them back in, and they need, boom, right up to the top with pyridoxal 5-phosphate again. So don't be fooled by it, because everybody's gone through this. Oh, you don't need it anymore. You're okay for about 2 weeks, and then suddenly it drops, and then you've got to do that loading dose and go through the whole thing again, right? Now, we used to like to go to a place called Flambards. Helen, I think did you go to Flambards? It's a fun fair out park in Cornwall. And you've probably seen these. There's a tunnel there that you walk through. There's like a platform with handles. It is about 12, 15 foot long, something like this. And what you have to do is have to walk from one end of this to the other end of the tunnel. But as you're walking, the tunnel is moving like this. Okay, this platform, of course, is dead still. It doesn't move. But you think, oh, I can just walk there. And you get just in there, and you're going crazy holding on to this thing as it's doing this. And you think, it is not moving, Chris. You know, just like the pilot, as I talked this morning in the jet. You know, they have to rely upon the instruments because they can no longer rely upon their vestibular system. It doesn't work like that. Hypoxia has gone in there. In this case, it's the light vestibular mechanism. So you hold on. But I've learnt, if I ever want to go across there fast and beat the kids, is I do that. I can walk straight across them, as long as you don't look at the wall, you know. But any slightest little information on the wall, it'll pick it up. And yet you wouldn't see it normally. But peripheral vision is so important to us. But we have no idea that just this in our peripheral vision can make all the difference to if you've got vertigo. And that will be the next thing with you. If we put you in the tunnel, you see, because your peripheral vision is beginning to go, you'll feel very disorientated. You know. A child can go through that and not worry about it at all. But for us, you know, who's losing the rods and the vestibular, you wouldn't know. And of course, in the end, you can't do it at all. You know, we took the children to IMAX in the Science Museum the other day. And the announcer there, before he said, when the show comes on, he said, because it's all about the solar system and things and the universe, he said, if you get dizzy, which a lot of people obviously do, close your eyes and look to the back of the cinema and leave the cinema. It's quite safe, or just stay there with your eyes closed, and of course immediately you're fine. Okay? As soon as you open your eyes, boom, you know, it hits you again. And so this is the thing with it, is peripheral vision. So once your peripheral vision begins to become affected, that's when occasionally you knock into things and you don't notice you're doing it. Okay, you think, you know, I've seen that table leg there before, but bang, you hit it again. And that's when you begin to think, especially when you don't look to the left enough and the car's coming. Okay, then you know you're in real trouble. But this is a long way down the line. And provided you take your pyridoxal 5-phosphate, you will never get there. Okay, now Harper's biochemistry he talks about 400 nanometers. and that it's mauve, okay, which is lovely. And that he talks about substrates and end products being strengthening and weakening, etc., and that ray of light on the skin affects the whole body, okay, which is great. We've been saying this for 15 years now, but it's so lovely to actually see it written down in the Bible as such of biochemistry. Now, what he says is you need, for people with mauve, which is going to be a lot of you, to take beta-carotene, okay, because beta-carotene will act to absorb the mauve light, okay? So I tried beta-carotene. I don't know whether you got the original Master Nutrition box. Did we have one there? I don't think we did in the end with beta-carotene. Anyway, don't worry if you haven't got it in there, because it doesn't work anyway, okay? Now, some years ago, I got interested, in fact, 15 years ago when I first became interested in colour, by two old ladies who had macular degeneration and wanted to know whether a brand new product on the market called lutein and zeaxanthin would work for them. And I didn't even know what macular degeneration was. But we tried to muscle test, and it did seem to be effective, this product. And so, again, we've made this for macular degeneration with people, mixing blueberry extract, or bilberry rather, lutein and zeaxanthin. So I use those separately. So do you have them separate? Yeah, there should be a zeaxanthin.
No, that's the smart lutein.
Yeah, so is there a zeaxanthin? It's in the heart kit, so it'll be somewhere around there. Huh? Okay, so what we're going to do is leave the mauve on you. Is there a zeaxanthin there? Yeah. So zeaxanthin is an orange colour, not totally dissimilar to beta-carotene, but beta-carotene, zeaxanthin are orange, and they absorb more the violet light, which is more in the cones. So zeaxanthin is much more for cone problem, not rods. So you can see zeaxanthin is a waste of time with you. But lutein is yellow. Okay, and yellow is the complementary colour to mauve. Okay, does everybody understand what a complementary colour is? Okay, in other words, there's an equal and opposite colour that absorbs that one to make the complete package. Okay, so okay, so we can use lutein. Lutein is not the cure for you. Okay, lutein will help your eyes to protect them from the peroxides. Okay, so you're not suffering from a deficiency of lutein, but lutein will protect you. Okay, and you've only got one set of eyes. Okay, so I had a patient the other day who I was talking to this, and she showed to quite a lot of lutein, and I said, look, I really think you should take this because you know, you've only got two eyes. And she said, no. She said, I've only got one. I lost my first one from a cataract in childhood. She was telling me right away, you know, she'd have problems right from childhood. She said, you bet I'm going to take it, you know, because she's only got one eye and she was losing the vision of that. So it is really, really important to do that. Now, how much lutein do you need? And what do we find lutein? It's a yellow compound, bright yellow carotenoid. It's part of the beta-carotene carotenoid compounds. But strangely, you could say, well, anything yellow must be good. And that would be yellow peppers, corn on the cobs, etc. But strangely, leafy green vegetables have the highest amount. Leafy green vegetables are the biggest source of lutein. So 1 capsule of lutein, 2 capsules of lutein, 3 capsules of lutein. Now that's P5P. Where's the Jill? Jill. Okay, we need the lutein. Can you get a? Okay, we need lutein. That's it. I thought it was a bit pale. Now, the biggest source of lutein, over and above anything else, is kale. So kale is the biggest source, followed by Swiss chard, followed by collards, and followed by spinach. Okay, everything else then goes down and down and down. It is present in a number of different substances, compound foods rather. It's a natural, it's a food, it's not found synthetically. And, that's better. So we use, first of all, just pure lutein. I think I gave this to Estelle, didn't I? Okay, for the holiday, with the hope you were going to get some sunshine. But you didn't. Okay, so lutein. So what we've done is made a smart product of lutein and buy 50% lutein in it, okay, and 50% kale, but organic kale, of course, and dried. Because I noticed on the website, I was doing some research yesterday, cooked kale only has 50% of the lutein of raw, which indicates that it's water soluble. Okay, so the bad news is you've got to have raw kale. Ugh. Okay, pretty grim. It's nice. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we're up to 3 capsules of the max. Now, this is a lot. Okay, most people it's a couple. When we had the single lutein compounds, in other words, just lutein and nothing else, which was again 50% of the value, our champion then was 9. Okay, so you are 4 of these, so you'd be equivalent to 7 or 8 of the other one. So this gives you a gauge how much inflammation in the way of peroxide is going on. Okay, so I like this because this gives me something. She's strengthening to 4 capsules. If in a month's time she comes in and she strengthens to 3, we know we're reducing. Okay, now she's got an acute or chronic, we could say, inflammatory process going on. She's producing superoxide, which is being reduced beautifully by SOD to hydrogen peroxide, but she's not going beyond that. So the P5P is what she's deficient in, but she's got to take the protective, or I would suggest, because this could take some months, it could take 3 months or so to reduce the inflammation enough by taking the pyridoxal 5-phosphate, that she reduces the production of hydrogen peroxide, which will reduce the damage to her eyes. There's no point at all in looking at our eyes or any other tissue in the body to start the repair or the regeneration when you've got inflammation. So in other words, she's got the damaging chronic inflammation going on, and you can chuck all the tissue extracts, all the glandular extracts, everything you want to start the repair process on where her key bits are. But if she's got acute inflammation going on with peroxide, you've got to sort that out first. All right? And that could take several months to get this amount out of the way. Okay? So does this all make sense to you with what's going on? All right? So every time, not only when she goes out, but basically all the time, because we don't know how much mauve there is in these lights, because you can't see it. Okay? It looks a white light, but of course light is not white, it's clear. So when you add the 7 colours of the rainbow together, it's clear. So in clear light, even though this is artificial, we don't know how much is violet there. We don't know how much is going on there. But this explains, and Sam's wife Estelle, and I've come across this many times since, finds very sensitivity in certain shops and could never really understand why it was. And it's the lighting. They cannot stand the lighting. Go into another shop and it's fine. But you go into one shop and you really feel very peculiar with it. Okay? Now I have a theory, this is 400 nanometers, and this is only a theory, that the electromagnetic effect activates Uroporphyrinogen or Coproporphyrinogen into the oxidized chemicals. We know 400 does it, so why doesn't other things do it? And I have a suspicion, it's only a suspicion, that mobile phones do this. That mobile phones will stimulate the oxidative process if you've got high Uroporphyrinogen or Coproporphyrinogen and damage your ear and your eye. Okay, now, some of you, be honest with yourself. What is the vision like on both eyes? Okay, close one eye and look, and close the other, then close the other one, open the other one, okay, and see. Do you use a mobile phone on your right ear? Probably yes, if you're right-handed. Would that be right? Yes. Okay. Which eye is weaker now? Okay. Is your right eye weaker than your left, even though you might be right eye dominant? Is the vision not so good on that? In which case, I think you may find that the mobile phone frequency is doing the same thing as the light of the 400 nanometers. Okay. It's only a theory, because people weaken to mobile phones anyway. Okay. Or do they? Does everybody weaken to a mobile phone when it's on? Okay, because I can put a mobile phone on you, and then I call you and open the line up and you go weak. We must test that. And it's a good way to show that things work, not necessarily always in the mouth. But does everybody do that? Have you ever found anybody who doesn't do it? No. Yes, you tend, but there might be somebody who can take it.
When we trained in kinesiology with Brandon, I remember him getting us all to do it and then take a shed full of antioxidants
Yes.
and then test them.
Absolutely, and this is what I'm saying, is if you don't have a heme problem and you stimulate your heme production, I think you probably can tolerate it, or a certain amount, you see.
We put all of the bone,
Yes.
all of them.
That's right. And that's why I think here with Viv, if she takes her lutein, she will protect herself, but lutein may be only just one of compounds which are antioxidants, but they work against the mode. But what I'm saying is there may be other wavelengths or frequencies which are interchangeable, which produce the oxidizing effect on these intermediate porphyrins. All right? So this is the important thing here, that the porphyrin itself is an intermediate substance and can be shunted in the presence of certain radiation, not just like...
Use a mobile.
You don't need... No, you're probably very wise. I wish none of us usually need to happen. Okay, so your answer is whatever I told you, 5 pyridoxal 5-phosphate, wasn't it, for about 2 weeks, and 4 lutein, okay? And to get rid of your mercury was coriander, wasn't it, in the beginning? Okay, so that's good, okay? So off you go.
Chris,
Yeah,
I have another theory.
yeah,
After we spoke last time about this, I went out and got some glasses of all different types, lenses, colours, sunglasses, and I tested a cell on them. Only one type of glasses, I didn't look at the colours at all, actually tended to weaken her, or strengthen her.
strengthener, yeah,
Yeah, and that was yellow.
yes. So yellow is very powerful. But if you look on some of my old manuals and on the internet, you'll see there's a relationship between the colours and frequency with the notes. So visible colour is 40 octaves up from the sound that we can hear, but you still got your 7 colours in those octaves. So I have a theory that the wavelengths that these things work on have a similar effect to the mauve.
It should be the same, shouldn't it, really?
It should be, you'd expect it, but the point is that we don't know these things. But if you look back in your life and say, well actually, you know, I've been using a mobile phone much more in recent years, or you go through periods of it, and you automatically do that and you use it for more than 30 seconds or so, the radiation into your ear is big, but your eye is not a vast distance from your ear for radiation. You know, this is why some people say you should always use it on hands-free if you're going to use them. You know, don't use them as regular phones because of the effect of the radiation in there. But just have a think about it. But certainly the light we do know. So just as we got a few minutes before we break, let's move on. So I'm going to go back to here. This is the very first pathway. So if a person strengthens to ALA, and all these markers are available, all right, they're all, has Clive got them? Are they out there, or? They're all available anyway, okay? We are going to put them into the phonocardiography kit that we do to looking at the heart routinely, but as it's markers, because I know that you'll probably say, how do I test my patients? You know, can you send me ALA, etc. So I want to make sure that each one you actually understand, so you might want to scribble down there. So if a person strengthens to ALA, think adenosylcobalamin to start the whole process off, and think pyridoxal 5-phosphate. Okay, those are the 2 nutrients that you'll need. Both of them are coenzymes. Okay, in other words, they're activated vitamins. So we're looking at genetics here. Okay, so succinyl-CoA is formed from the Krebs or citric acid cycle. Okay, now let's look at the second one. Porphobilinogen, PBG, is the first precursor pyrrole. Okay, so what we've started with is succinyl-CoA with glycine, first of all, and we're making an interesting compound because we put 2 molecules of this together, and they've locked together, and they've formed a ring. Okay, you see there's 5 sides to this ring, and it's called a pyrrole. Okay, we've got tails here, and then we've got a tail here. So this is called a pyrrole. This is the first pyrrole in the whole process. This enzyme, ALA dehydratase, takes water out of it. In other words, it chops an H2O off and forms this lovely pyrrole. This enzyme, according to Harper's biochemistry, is zinc dependent. He doesn't talk at all about any coenzymes here. My finding a lot is I find methylene tetrahydrofolate, one of the active forms of folic acid, again, which we do now as a powder, the factors to get it together, shows up an awful lot with people. and zinc. Now, Igor tells me in complicated language, biochemical language, magnesium seems to work as it helps in converting the 6-unit molecule, a hexamer of the enzyme, to an 8-unit, being much more active. Okay, so in other words, from a biochemist's point of view, he says that what it does is it upregulates the enzyme, what he calls then an allosteric effector. And he says, I think probably the folate acts as an allosteric effector in the same way. And he said, look for lysine as well, because lysine is very rich in the active site of the enzyme. Maybe, I'm not a great amino acid prescriber, but maybe worth looking at. Now, what does this say underneath? Inhibited by PB, lead. How do they know this? Because all the research was done with lead miners. Now you know that lead is very toxic for children and for adults. Low doses of lead have been shown to be toxic more than high doses. High doses will either kill you or you'll get over it. But low doses over many years will have a detrimental effect, and particularly on brain development in children. So we got rid of all our lead pipes, didn't we? Okay. So is lead available in other sources? Possibly still within our environment. But this research was done with people suffering from lead toxicity. Why is it important? Because it blocks the enzyme to go on to make heme. And then as a result of that, they get all sorts of problems because they can't learn properly, they can't detoxify, they're always ill, and all the symptoms of lead poisoning. So I said to him, well, what about other metals? He said, it doesn't matter, lead is just one. You know, you could substitute cadmium, mercury, aluminium, whatever you want in there. So we mustn't forget the toxin side, Viv. Okay, because what was the first thing she showed to? Toxin. What was the toxin? Toxic metal was mercury. Okay, so it could be that we've got a blockage here, or even in the first one, and that we're blocking it because of the mercury. So we need to detoxify. Always think about that detoxification first, or with. You remember, life is about this, isn't it? Life is about getting the right nutrients and also getting rid of the toxins. So we need to decrease the toxins and elevate the right nutrients. So the right nutrients was the P5P, the toxins was the mercury. So never forget that. Now, this molecule has two COOHs, or carboxyl groups on it. A carboxyl group, COOH group, make it an excitatory toxin. This is exactly the same as occurs with aspartate acid and glutamic acid, okay, or aspartame or monosodium glutamate. They all have two carboxyl groups. Okay. Why is this significant? Because it locks onto the NMDA receptor and opens the channel up for massive input of calcium and sodium. And this is what happens with a hyperactive kid. Okay. This stuff is an excitotoxin. Okay. If you don't get rid of this, you'll go on not only to produce no heme, unable to detoxify, but you'll wind the person right up. Okay. This is your hyperactive kid who's got ADDH. Okay. And in your adults, you're looking at the autistic spectrum, possibly schizophrenia, as you'll see a bit later on. So whenever we got a COOH, two of them, it's an excitotoxin. So you'll notice that the next stage is chopping these off. So the next stage here, we've chopped the COOHs off, and what we've gone through is a PBG, or porphobilinogen deaminase. Now all deaminase enzymes are P5P dependent. Okay, so deamination, transamination are all pyridoxal dependent. Okay, and I find here a form of folic acid called tetrahydrobiopterin, H4-biopterin, also shows. So it could be P5P or H4-biopterin. Okay, so if we can't make hydroxymethylbilane, we'd strengthen to that and weaken to this. Now this one, if it's working, gives off 4 molecules of ammonia en route. That's a lot of ammonia, okay? Which has to then go into the urea cycle and requires biotin to be able to recycle it round to make arginine and urea to pass it out of the body. So if you're deficient in biotin, which again is a coenzyme, you can't metabolize ammonia. And ammonia, when it builds up in the brain and in the kidneys, is very toxic. It's neurotoxic and nephrotoxic, horrible stuff. You ever smelt ammonia? Knocks your head off, okay? So you can imagine producing that and not being able to get rid of it. Okay, so this pathway is really, really important. So here, as we go down here, okay, if we don't open this pathway up, if we've got a blockage on that, because we haven't got P5P or H4-biopterin, we'll end up with high amounts of this. If we do metabolize it, we've got to be able to get rid of the ammonia in the process. Now this is where it becomes interesting here, what the interesting cryptopyrrole was, because if this one is blocked and you haven't got P5P or H4-biopterin, you shunt it this way. And this substance called hydroxyhemopyrrolin, or HPL. And this is what they pick up in the urine. And we'll talk about that after the break, which they thought was cryptopyrrole, but in fact is an isomer of cryptopyrrole. Cryptopyrrole is not the bad guy. I'm not convinced hydroxyhemopyrrolin is a bad guy either. It's what they pick up in the urine. Okay? The bad guy is this, because it's an excitotoxin. This is the one that does all the brain damage. It's like you drinking fizzy Diet Cola all the time. You know, if you do it long enough, your brain just blows out. You know, if you keep taking aspartame or monosodium glutamate enough, you just destroy all your excitatory neurotransmitters. Okay? This is what's happening 24/7. You know, if you're short of the P5P and things. So we'll come back and look after at the break, and that really cryptopyrrole is just an isomer of this round the other way. So this I don't think is the bad guy, I think it's what they measure. And this is what they originally called the mauve disease. And because this oxidizes, produces the superoxide, and this is the residue. But it's the superoxide which is the problem, really. It's the fact you create inflammation, and this may be in the brain. So we think that the PBG to HPL here is a cytochrome P450 enzyme, probably. Okay? So hydroxymethylbilane here then goes on to uroporphyrinogen, okay, through this one. This one is a synthase enzyme which needs calcium, magnesium, again inhibited by copper, mercury, cadmium, and ammonium. So too much ammonium buildup can inhibit this. Then we come to the two major ones that we were looking at here. So uroporphyrinogen goes to coproporphyrinogen, and these, when they don't work properly, when there's not enough P5P here, side shunt to uroporphyrins and coproporphyrins with the production of superoxide in the presence of light. So we've got a couple of minutes, and I want to take somebody else now. Does anybody suffer with migraines? You do? Excellent. Can we borrow you? Sorry, you missed out there. Okay, so can... right, you pop yourself down on your back. Okay, so I need to just very quickly go through from the beginning. Okay, so do this, and with the other hand do that. Okay, so she's holding fine, which is good. Have you just done this or something?
No.
No, okay, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to do the yang points. Okay, so we'll do the most common ones first. So, no, let me do it. Okay. So it's just luck when you think you do the common ones first and you find they don't come up. Okay, so we've got gallbladder there, and then what we'll do is we'll go the yin ones. So we'll see what happens there. Oh, we hit lucky with the heart, another heart, so stay there. So I'm going to cross-check the heart to the gallbladder, all right, to see which is the primary one. So she doesn't strengthen to the gallbladder, which means that the primary one is the heart, all right? The gallbladder is the phenotype, the heart is the genotype, okay? So we'll keep her on that one at the moment because that's the one we're really after just at the moment. And then she's in weakness. Then we go up and down, up and down, up and down, and she's strong, okay? So that means we've got hypoxia. So at this stage, can someone call for Jill? Can you see if Jill's around there, because she knows where everything is. So we need to test you for oxygen. Stay, don't move from where you were. Okay. So we're going to test her for oxygen first. So she strengthens to oxygen. So we need hemoglobin. Okay, pull. So she strengthens to hemoglobin. So I want ALA. No idea. No. They must be down here. Okay. So ALA is the first one that we're going to use as a marker. Okay. So we got past the first one, all right? PBG. Okay, remember PBG is the bad guy. That's the one that goes on to form all the horrible byproducts, PBG. And we're past that. Okay, that's excellent. Okay, now we want uroporphyrinogen. Okay, so uroporphyrinogen, again, she doesn't strengthen. Excellent. Coproporphyrinogen. Excellent. Okay, now protoporphyrinogen. Can you see where I am on the chart? Okay, she strengthens. All right, so this means she's not getting to protoporphyrogen. What she's going to do is she's going to shunt this to coproporphyrinogen. Okay, she's building up the substrate, which will shunt it to coproporphyrin. Okay, so she's as mad as a hatter. Okay, so no, in the clear, she weakens to coproporphyrin. Okay, so she's shunted her. So can you all see on your chart where we are? Okay, can you flick the chart back on, Carrie, to make sure everybody knows where we are? So we have a blockage here. Okay, we weaken to this and strengthen to this, which means we have a problem here. Okay, that means we're getting a build-up of this, or the substrate, which weakens, and the end product here strengthens. So we've got an inhibition of the enzyme. That means in the presence of light, she will shunt this to coproporphyrin here. So in the presence of light, in the presence of what light? The mauve. What light will weaken her? Mauve, 400 nanometers. Okay. Now, why did I ask her? Why did I say some of my kids? This is what causes the sensitivity on the retina. This stuff is dynamite on the retina. Okay. She's going to produce hydrogen peroxide and other reactive oxygen species on the retina. You've strobed this a bit on her. Put some flashing lights. Are you sensitive to light when you bet? That's how I knew that she got this, all right? Now, when you start to get this, things begin to click into place. You say, ah, you're right. It's when I'm exposed to light. You stay indoors. You'd be good girls, stay indoors all day. You won't get migraines in the same way, as long as you keep out of, artificial light and things. Keep in the dark is the best way. Okay, so let's see, what does she need? P5P. Don't give me the capsules and let's have a look. We'll do the job smartly now. Okay, so go on to there. Okay, so first of all, let's have P5P capsules. Okay, so she will show to the P5P because this is a genetic polymorphism. How long have you been suffering migraines? Years. What age did they start? Listen carefully. 18. Yeah. Why did I ask what age they started? Because that's when our hormones kicked in, isn't it? And what is practically behind every hormone in the body is P5P. Every hormone, every brain chemical. You're losing these down your trousers. Okay, back onto your heart there. Okay, so we're coming in at 3 P5P. All right. So now let's see. Do you have vision problems?
No.
No. So except
The light bothers me.
yes, light bothers you. Yeah. So let's go back with that, and let's go the lutein. So could we have some lutein caps? This will help us to tell us how bad she is. Okay. I have no idea. Okay, absolutely no idea really how sensitive she is, but the lutein caps will give us a clue. So 1 cap, and we're just doing it against the mauve. 2 caps. How many were you, Viv? 4. You got 4 to beat. 3. She's as bad as you. Do you wear glasses?
No.
No, she doesn't wear glasses. So she's not as bad as you in that way, but she gets migraines to make up for it. Okay. Are you? Really? Okay, now. Okay, so what other symptoms do you have?
In terms of,
Health, yeah, tell us about anything
Well,
else.
I get a lot of dizziness and
Dizziness, what's that due to?
hypoxia.
Dim light, the rod, please. Bring in the rod. What's the dizziness? Dizziness can be three things, can't it? Dizziness can be the neck, it can be the vision, and it can be the labyrinths. So hold that down with both hands. Okay, keep your eyes open now. Okay, so we're going to put on now the 4 lutein. Okay, and 3 P5P. Was it 3? I think it was 3, wasn't it? Was it what? 3. I think it's 3. It was 4 lutein. Okay. Okay. So that's why she's getting dizziness. It's a horrible thing because you can't explain it. It's what I described down the tube. You know, the tube is moving, but you not. And it's a horrible feeling when that happens. Vestibular, from the labyrinth, the world goes round you instead of you going round the world. Okay? We always ask that question of our patients at college, and we always ask them to pass exams, and we never understood why we had to ask them. But have you ever been on a roundabout? You know, they're banned from health and safety these days, but if you go around on a roundabout and then come off, you know, the great thing the kids love is, oh, like this. Instead of which we go, whoa, like that. Okay? And because the world is continuing to go on round. Okay? That's labyrinthine. Okay? But when the world goes round you, when you're going down the tube and you're seeing the wall move, and that's visual. Okay, so there's a subtle difference. We don't know about the labyrinth because we know that the eyes are bad. Okay, the labyrinth is dead easy to test because you just test onto the temporal bone on either side there, and we close the eyes. Okay, take the eyes out of the whole game altogether, and she's strong. So her problem is visual. Okay, she's losing her rods. Okay, and this is serious because she's got time to save them, luckily, but you are losing your rods, and you're probably losing them at a reasonable amount because of the fact you should have 4 smart lutein. Okay, so you need to eat raw kale. Okay,
That's fine. Right?
that's fine. Okay, you need to take the lutein, but the lutein will not, as I say, correct the problem. It'll save your eyes and your tissues. What will save you is the pyridoxal 5-phosphate because that's what's necessary in this particular pathway. All right, or this pathway rather here. All right, exposure to light will damage the eyes. Okay, you must always use something to protect your eyes. Okay, so you need sunglasses. As Sam said, the only ones that strengthened his wife were the yellow ones. So again, you can begin to see that yellow is the new style. Okay, we're working on other natural substances apart from lutein, which are yellow, which will absorb that wavelength as well. So, you know, we're looking at a lot of plant-derived substances, but the carotenoids make sense here. But it's interesting that Harper says, you know, he uses or suggests beta-carotene. And it was interesting because that's probably what was only available to King George, was eating carrots and things. But it's orange, and that's not the one that you need. Okay, if orange strengthened you, especially zeaxanthin, we know it was the cones that were being affected. But this is, could you get this superoxide and the hydrogen peroxide as well? So this is really important because I knew that you would weaken to that, all right? Because I find all my migraine patients do, okay? Because they're all light sensitive, okay? Or most migraines are, I would say, are sensitive. So let's do superoxide first. So that's superoxide with NADPH. Okay, and then we'll do hydrogen peroxide. Why did we know hydrogen peroxide was going to weaken? Because she can't produce catalase in sufficient amounts. You know, catalase is the enzyme that breaks hydrogen peroxide down, reduces it. Right? So it all fits. And it fits more amazingly to the textbook than I've ever seen. Because we always told individual variation and things. This isn't. You know, this is textbook stuff. You know, I'm just reproducing what Harper's has been saying for a long time. Providing you use the right markers. And the right markers, we found that if it's genetics, will always be the polymorph, there will always be the activated vitamins, not the raw ones. Okay, that she will not show for pyridoxine or B12 or anything. It's only pyridoxal 5-phosphate, it's only adenosylcobalamin, it's the active forms of the folates and so on, not the raw material. She's not deficient. You don't look deficient. I'm sure you, even if obviously she eats kale. In fact, you like it, don't you? And that's what we find with this, is people actually who enjoy kale need it. That's why they're almost drawn to it. But second to kale would be some substance called Swiss chard and Collards. Swiss chard is really quite bitter as well. And collard is a big leafy green veg, which is very seasonal to us, and then spinach. Okay, but again, remember the cooking seems to lose a lot of the lutein. Now, I did a demo the other day. I thought, oh, I've got some kale. I'll test this in my fridge. And I thought, oh, I've had that for a few days. So I undid it, and guess what? It was yellow. And you would normally chuck that straight in the bin, wouldn't you, of course, because it's gone off. So what's obviously happened is the chlorophyll is oxidized off and then left the lutein. So it's actually perfect for her. But I still put it in the bin. But behind the green, you see, is the yellow, which is hidden from us because we couldn't see it because of the chlorophyll content. But kale is the richest source, naturally. So 50% dry organic kale powder with the lutein really works really well. Okay, so you need to do that. And I would always guarantee your migraines will start to really subside. Okay. Now, doesn't mean that every case is going to be the same thing. You know, what you can say is she could have come in right at the beginning, her B6 as your pyridoxal 5-phosphate could have been here. Or it could have been there. Any of the pathways which are pyridoxal 5-phosphate dependent, it could show up. It just depends upon which one is the one harbouring at the moment. But usually if it shows there, it's likely to be down here as well. So just before we break, mutations in the DNA, in other words, problems within the DNA of a person, lead to abnormalities of the enzymes of heme synthesis. So we haven't even got to hemoglobin yet. Accumulation of ALA or PBG and or decrease in the heme in cells and body fluids. Okay, so if we get a build-up of these, we get a decrease of heme. This creates neuropsychiatric signs and symptoms. Neuropsychiatric is just a matter of degrees. It's degrees of madness. She's quite mad because she needs 4, was it? Okay. You'd be totally mad if you need 5 or 6. Okay. So on this side, accumulation of porphyrinogens in the skin and tissues. Okay. So here we got this one, coproporphyrins. Accumulation of made a couple of porphyrinogens in the skin and tissues lead to spontaneous oxidation of the porphyrinogens to porphyrins, which lead to photosensitivity. Okay, that's straight from Harper's Biochemistry, not me. Okay, you can get that from any version of Harper's Biochemistry. He's been spouting on about it for centuries. That's what you need, those two.